Hey up YouTube, what's going on? Amazing here, bringing you an episode of the Metapod. Yes, it has been a while. I was waiting for those metas to settle down a bit. But we're going to be targeting one of the more controversial mons potentially of this generation. That's Necrozma. Necrozma is a funny old mon. There it was getting banned from usage from prominent leagues when all things kicked off late last year and early this year. And then it ended up in NU for a little while on Smogon. It bumped its way back up to the borderline above it, but now it was down in NU for a little while there. That being said, it went down to NU with some pretty interesting company in the form of Slow-Grow and Whimsical, which were in last year's OU, and Vaporeon, which was of course UU last generation, so it wasn't without some also similarly surprising company. Let's have a look at Necrozma's stats though first. HP 97, attack 107, defense 101, special attack 127, special defense 89, and its speed is 79. So great stats across the board. The speed just being one stage under 80 does make that mildly problematic. Just all those ones that tend to have a speed tier just marginally short of common speed tiers always seem to have a minor issue with these kind of things. If you've been 80, then it would speed tie with certain things like Moveset I think is 80 base speed, and certain other things, quite a lot of things have 80 base speed. So being 1 point under does make that marginally problematic for Necrozma at times. But Necrozma's ability, now, Necrozma's ability is Prism Armor, which is Filter by any other name. It just reduces super effective damage from 2 times to 1.5 times. So it's the same, essentially the same ability that Megaagron has, for instance, just with a different name. And we all know how annoying it can be to take down Megaagron in the same way. But Megaagron does have an exploitable defense, whereas Necrozma doesn't. Necrozma's defense is at 101 and 89. They're both very high, and its HP stat is 97. Well, special defense isn't too high, but its defense is pretty good, and combined with that 97 HP, if you build it either way, it does become a bit of a problem to try and take it down with raw power alone. However, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Necrozma gets plenty of notable moves in the form of Recovery in Morning Sun and Moonlight. It gets Psychic and Psyshock naturally. Does get Zen Headbutt on the physical side as well. No, it doesn't get Zen Headbutt, sorry. Psycho Cut it gets on the physical side. Calm Mind, Stored Power, Autotomize for setup purposes there. It also gets Rock Polish as well, which does the same thing. Stealth Rock for utility purposes, Thunder Wave as well for utility purposes, and plenty of special coverage in the form of Power Gem, Signal Beam, Dark Pulse even, to take on other Psychic types. Flash Cannon is there as well, and like I mentioned, it does have the physical options as well to rock off that 107 attack. Let's not forget, its special attack might be 127, its attack is still 107 as well, so it's very, very exploitable, and it does get Sword Stance. Psycho Cut is there for the physical side. Night Slash gets dark coverage on both sides. Earthquake, Rock Slide / Stone Edge, Shadow Claw is there as well. Brick Break, and of course it does get the setup with the Sword Stance there. So it can set up on both sides. And can set up speed with Autotomize and the Rock Polish, whichever one is your fancy. Both do the same thing. Just get the utility with special unique utility of Thunder Wave on the. There we are, and it does get the Stealth Rock, which does set it apart from other bulky Psychic types in that regard, because it can be your Stealth Rocker if you want it to. Not that it really enjoys it most of the time, it did prefer to be a setup mod, but it can be a utility mod if you want it to be. So, my thoughts on Necrozma in general. Well, Necrozma kind of sets itself up as a more edgy Cresselia, a little bit. You kind of handle it the same way you would handle Cresselia, in a way. Toxic is your safest bet, because just whittling down, because it does get the recovery of course, but Toxic Mute does help it out, because it doesn't have any way of taking that off outside of maybe a couple of Z moves, which have the ability to heal. Not sure. But if you have a 2-8 KO with stab super effective moves, then go for that of course. Coverage super effectiveness rarely achieves that 2-8 KO that it kind of needs due to that Prism Armor. So those coverage moves, those Rogue Dark Pulses or Shadow Balls, they're very rarely going to be able to 2-8 KO the Necrozma purely because of Prism Armor. You do need the stab behind it to really 2-8 KO Necrozma. So it's only really Dark, Ghost or Bug types that can really take it on with the raw power. And even then they often have to hope it's built defensively on the other side. So like physically defensive. I haven't done the calculus right now before recording this, but physically defensive might be able to not be 2-8 KO'd by certain physical Dark Ghost or Bug types, and especially defensive the same way. If you build it especially defensive, then it might not be able to be 2-KO'd by even stab Dark Ghost bug types. You do sometimes have to hope, depending on the power of the mon attacking it, that even with a stab move, you do have to hope it might not be built defensively on the side you're attacking with. So it's very hard to take down. Toxic is the safest bet, though, pretty much the same time. Like I said, you deal with it pretty much the same way you deal with Cress. With that in mind, it's kind of baffling to see it end up all the way down in NU. Well, for a little while anyway. Personally, I feel like it will find its way back up at least one tier, and it's already halfway there, I suppose, already, so there we are. But I think it caused a lot of problems in the very early meta because it was such powerful mon, decently powerful mon with set of options, with that really difficult ability to deal with. It caused a lot of problems in the early meta, and then people started making sure they had anti-Necrozma components to their teams and got used to dealing with, and therefore it fell down the users list. Also a realization that sticking Z crystals on other bulky psychics meant that they lose their weakness to knockoff. Meant that perhaps there were a few better alternatives. Obviously you can stick a Z crystal on Necrozma as well to help take those knockoffs even better as well. So there is that option, but Z moves on a Reuniclus, for instance, that's higher up in the tier, so that's probably maybe the reason why that's there opposed to Necrozma. Necrozma's speed does make it kind of too slow for it to be fast, and then too fast to be Trick Room as well, whereas Reuniclus can exploit the Trick Room sweeping option if it wanted to. But it is kind of weird to see certain other bulky psychics higher up and Necrozma down here, and it's very hard to pin down exactly what's gone wrong with it. The thing is, Necrozma does have an interesting niche in the fact it can set up with speed, unlike its other compatriots like Cresselia or Reuniclus. Well, Reuniclus does have the Trick Room option, but if you slap a Z move on Necrozma, then it gets the weaker knockoff benefits too. So Necrozma also has a wealth of coverage moves to benefit it from either side, like I mentioned. They're not the strongest coverage moves on the most part, but it does have the important ones. Dark Pulse, Flash Cannon, Earthquake, Stone Edge for each side. However, most importantly, as I have seen it claimed that Necrozma doesn't have any coverage for Dark types. That's wrong. It does get X Scissor and Brick Break, but that does require you to be a physical Necrozma setup. It cannot break Dark types really, unless the Dark types have a weakness to one of its other coverage moves. It cannot break them if it's a Calm Mind variant, for instance. If it is the Source Dance variant, then you can have the X Scissor or the Brick Break to tackle those Dark types. And even the Dark Poison types can be handled with Earthquake, for instance, so there is even that. Right now, its lack of Fairy coverage is kind of the problem, because that is how Cresselia deals with the Calm Mind setup. It does get that Fairy coverage, which probably the only reason why Cresselia is a tier higher than Necrozma. It's purely because of the fact it does get that Fairy move. The weird thing is, the lack of Fairy coverage on Necrozma was weirdly unexploited in NU before the suspect text shoved it into the borderline. During May's NU Alpha stage, Spiritomb was sitting at 94th place and Sableye was at 80th, 1.8% and 2.3% respectively. So neither of those would have been... Necrozma wouldn't be able to counter either of those should it encounter them. And yet they were so far down the users list. In fact, in the alpha stage of I haven't checked the beta stage yet. I'm not sure if those numbers have been released yet. But May's alpha stage, which is the last set of data I can actually have my hands on, Necrozma was actually sitting third in NU, 15% basically. It was that. But in the OU for May as well, it was sitting at 129th. Which kind of says everything in terms of the user stats. It was less than 1% of teams, and I think it's perhaps time for Necrozma to start building its way back into teams, because it is a problem for teams to deal with if it don't, like I said, if they don't have those stab moves on the right side. But what is interesting is in NU, also, Uxie is 25th and Mesprit is 66th. So, yeah, there is that. In terms of drafting Necrozma, in terms of the drafting Necrozma, it usually ends up in tier 1 of the tiers, basically. And I've seen it in a couple of tier 2s, and that's probably too low for it. Like, it is definitely a tier 1 Pokemon in terms of draft tiers. It's 17 points in the PPL, which is a points draft league, which is slightly different. Just to put that in perspective, Jirachi is 19. Probably should have looked at what Cresselia was. I think it's about 15 or 16, something similar, just slightly lower. So that's where we kind of rank it in terms of points for drafting, which is why it's weird to see Cresselia in RU opposed to Necrozma being in NU. So there is that. The issue, of course, there is if Necrozma were to go up a tier, then it would be sitting in RU with Cresselia, and therefore it would be competing for a similar spot on a team. If you wanted a bulky setup on, you would be competing between Necrozma and Cresselia there. However, so I don't know if it will actually ever go up that stage unless Cresselia goes up a stage again. I can't see really Necrozma maybe joining it. It may temporarily join it, and I'm not sure what would happen there. But if it were to join it, but it would split the Cresselia Necrozma kind of situation there. Should it join Cresselia in RU? Don't know if it will though. However, Necrozma will definitely probably stay tier 1 / high priced in our leagues. So that's kind of Necrozma. I would like to have done maybe a bit of a field test with Necrozma, but of course it did end up in that borderline just as I was about to do a field test with it. Therefore, I couldn't use it. But in future episodes of Metapod, I am going to try and maybe bring a bit of a series alongside it, where I do test out these mons in the field, as it were. But of course, Necrozma ended up in that borderline after before I had a chance to record this, so I can't really use it in NU anymore. It doesn't work in VGC either because it's not allowed there, so can't really use it anywhere at this point in terms of field testing it, other than in leagues, and that's just a situational situation, so can't use it there. But that's it for me for now. That's been Necrozma's analysis. If you'd like to see any Pokemon, I don't have any plans. There's no order to these anymore. If you would like to see me cover a particular Pokemon, please put that in the comments down below. But for now, I've been amazing to you. You've been amazing too. I'll see you again next time.